Hi guys, we are from Create Sim and today we're discussing alcohol abuse. Um, we'll start with introductions. My name is Bianca. I'm a volunteer at Create Sim.
My name's Tanya as
Tanya,
well.
would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tanya as well. I am a volunteer at Create Zim as well.
And my name is Becca Luna Gash, and I'm a friend of Bianca.
Thank you, Bekalu. She's actually being humble. She just graduated last year with a Bachelor of Science in Neuropsychology and Biochemistry. Really smart lady. um, so yeah, we are going to start with an icebreaker. So I have a question for you ladies. If you had to pick one food and eliminate it from the world so that no one can ever eat it, what would that be?
Oh my goodness. Oh my. Wow. Let's start with you, Bianca.
I think a mushroom.
I agree with you on that.
I hate them.
I hate mushrooms as well. Yeah.
It can go.
Yeah, I don't like, yeah, I don't like the taste, the texture, and there's different types of mushrooms. Some of them are poisonous. I do not care for mushrooms at all. But for me, it would be snails.
Oh my gosh, people eat that?
Apparently, it's really nice.
Yeah, people eat snails. You eat them, Tanya?
No, I've never had one, but apparently they're really nice.
I know some people who really love them, but I cannot. They can go.
Yeah, to first start with the discussion, I wanted to ask you guys, do you think that alcohol is a drug?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people kind of view alcohol as just a drink, but it's really not. It's a drug. Yeah.
Bianca?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a drug. And I also think like people don't see it as a drug because it's socially acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. A lot of people tend to not think alcohol is a drug. I watched this thing once and people were saying like what drugs they've taken. And a lot of people, there's only one person that recognized that their first drug was actually alcohol. Next question. I want to ask you guys, when do you think that alcohol drinking becomes a problem for someone?
I think it becomes a problem when someone can no longer control how much they're drinking. If somebody is constantly drinking to the point where they black out, then that's a sign that it has become a problem. And if it's leading to the point where you're letting it affect your job or your relationships, then that is a big problem.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely know alcohol is a problem when it takes away self-control from you.
Yeah.
So when self-control is not there anymore and you feel distressed without drinking, then you know that there's definitely a problem. You become like dependent on alcohol. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's like leaning off what you guys have said. I think especially I've come across a lot of people, especially in the UK, that maybe will have alcohol first thing in the morning, and it's like I feel like sometimes yeah, it's crazy, but it's kind of like in the sense that I feel like alcohol, like you said, is associated. So people drink alcohol socially, isn't it? You have it as a glass with your friends or something like that. But I think sometimes when it gets to the point that the first thing you do in the morning is go to your corner shop or your local store and then you're buying alcohol, because it's kind of like imagine that's the first thing you wake up to. I feel like that can be a problem. And I was just going to say, what do you guys think, like you kind of said, Bianca, leading on from when people say like how it affects your relationships with people, even yourself, because even on the Create Zim Instagram, they said when it starts to affect your daily lifestyle, your relationships, you just functioning as a whole. What do you guys think about the effects of alcohol in that sense?
I mean, it is linked to a lot of other problems because, like, if you're addicted to alcohol, I think the major problem is the addiction, and in most cases, it is a symptom of something. It could be because somebody's trying to cover up something, or because they're trying to suppress feelings of something else. So it shows up in different ways in our in our lives. Like, if you're not able to do your job because you're intoxicated, then that's a major sign that it has become a problem in your life. It starts affecting your home life with the people you live with. And
Yeah.
Good. Sorry, if you
Well,
want.
I was just going to say, like, I agree with a lot of the things that Bianca said. Um, the way you can view it is, so alcohol kind of becomes the primary relationship that you feed after a while. So it replaces a lot of the other relationships that you have, and it becomes, it becomes like that primary relationship, and you can't live without it. You get to a point where you're stealing for to buy alcohol, you are lying to buy alcohol, and it becomes like a primary relationship. But an addiction really is it. But addiction is, we know that it's a disease, because then your body, your brain kind of become dependent on the drug, just because you've changed a lot of chemistry in your brain. And so for that, you really do have to see somebody to get help. But it is sad because, like you said, it replaces a lot of the things in your life, and you really have to work to maintain this relationship that you have with alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's such an amazing point that you guys bring up, and that's what takes us to the next slide. Kind of, you guys are kind of basically spoke a bit on it, but kind of just to delve more into what you said, why do you think people do turn to alcohol? Just to shed a bit more light.
I think, one is, like, I know for me growing up, it was peer pressure. It started in high school, and I remember, like when we had our lunchtime and stuff. That's kind of when it started. It was peer pressure, but as I grow older, I've noticed that because alcohol is socially accepted, it's there when you go out with your friends, and if there's not much to do and you guys are going, whether it's clubbing or to the bar, it's just something to do kind of thing for people. It's just a drink, and you don't want to feel left out when your friends are having drinks, right? And so, yeah, like peer pressure, belonging is another one, I'd say. Problems at home, and you're looking for an easy escape, is also another reason.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you've said there. I think in the sense that people go out when the people go out to party, they tend to drink because it kind of creates that euphoric feeling. You're in that atmosphere. And I guess,
yeah, I definitely agree with what you guys said. I think peer pressure was real in high school. Like, if you weren't drinking, people would look at you like, what is wrong with you? And I think it's way serious, especially in Zim, because it is associated with having fun. Like, are you even having fun if you're not drinking?
how can you support a person that may be abusing alcohol? What are you
That
guys?
is, I think the first thing is just being there for them and not judging them. A lot of people are ashamed to talk about what they're dealing with, or what they're addicted to.
And like I like what you said, Bianca. It's really important to not judge the person and to be understanding. Um, and definitely, I think it's when you can help them to see that, okay, the effects that alcohol has had on like in their life in general, the relationship that it's disrupted, uh, the effect on work, but of course, like you also want to make sure that you know your limits as well. And so if this person is addicted to alcohol, it's important that you provide them resources that they can reach out to and people that they can reach out to, and start counseling. And there are, for example, in Canada, there are so many programs that help people that are addicted to alcohol, and they have like steps that they follow. For example, there's like the 12 steps that I know of to help people that are dealing with alcohol addiction and so stuff like that. But the goal is really like when this person is having like alcohol cravings, because oftentimes the cravings is associated with something, whether it's like a place, memory, or people.
I agree with you. If you look again on Create Zim Instagram, there's a lot of things they said on how to actually support someone. And I think it's such a good point that you make, that sometimes, of course, you want the long run to be that the person will be a fully recovered, maybe alcoholic or whatever it may be. But you also need to understand that alcohol abuse doesn't just stop overnight. So it's kind of like you said, it's kind of step by step, taking it day by day, just to get someone closer to the end goal. And also as well, you have to kind of also, like I said, be realistic, because which I think is a good point that was made, because it's not, an addiction isn't so easy to just say I'm going to stop today or I'm going to stop tomorrow. Like, do you know what I mean? It's sometimes, like you said, it just takes a while. And one other thing I think, which is a good point, which we kind of maybe have highlighted, is that there's a lot of psychological and mental disorders that come from actually abusing alcohol. And that's where a lot of people, maybe per se, it can start with mental health problems because of their alcohol intake. So I think that's another thing that has to be kind of recognized on how to approach a person that may be abusing alcohol. But yeah, no, I definitely think kind of in that sense, especially with the mental health disorders that may come alongside alcoholic abuse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good, because I think we forget that um, for some people, alcohol, like drinking alcohol, is simply like a way to deal with something and an underlying issue. And what counseling does is, okay, we can help you with with overcoming your alcohol addiction, but we also have to deal with what's causing you to drink. Like if you really want to have like a long term improvement and a long term like wellness, then we have to deal with the underlying condition. So whether that is a mental health issue that's leading this person to drink, or whether that is like family dysfunction, whatever it is, like that's kind of why counseling is important, because then you kind of uncover those things that are leading you to just to act or behave in a certain way. Yeah, so that's important.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think a lot of patience is also required to the person who is trying to, um, seeking help from the addiction, and whether it be a friend or family members who are supporting them. Because, like you say, this is not an easy thing. It's not something you just decide to do and then the next day it's over. It's a long process. And even if you start counseling, the the other problems are going to surface up, whether
Absolutely.
it be you're drinking because of other mental health issues like depression or anxiety, or because of family stuff, whatever that's causing you to drink in the first place, those things will be on the surface. So I think it's very important to have a good supporting system. And also, people won't be able to support what they don't know.
Exactly.
If you're doing it in secret and you're not telling anybody, then it's a really hard thing to deal with by yourself. So I think we need to create a society where we don't shame people. If somebody comes to you and they tell you this is what they're dealing with, just show them love and support.
Yeah.
Um, Before we finish, I just want us to discuss the link between alcohol abuse and other mental disorders like anxiety and depression?
Yeah, I can talk a bit more about that, like from a neuroscience perspective. So from a neuroscience perspective, like alcohol is classified as a central nervous system depressant. So that means that it slows down like the brain functioning, and especially because what alcohol does, it has like it in fact enhances the impact of like GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that's like responsible for things like feeling calm, and basically it basically slows down brain function. And so the most interesting thing about alcohol is that it pretty much can affect every area of your brain. But when you first drink alcohol, like what Tanya said earlier, you feel like this excitement, right? Like that's when people kind of like feel this tipsiness, and it kind of alerts them a bit. And why it does that is because it begins by like activating the reward system, so you feel that increase in dopamine in the beginning. But actually, the more you drink, the more the GABA like the more it mimics the GABA neurotransmitters in your brain. So that means like it actually starts to slow down brain activity, and that's what people don't know, right? Like they're still expecting to feel that excitement, but the more you drink, actually, the more it slows down your brain function. So like that includes like your frontal cortex, slowing down your ability to reason, your memory, and so on and so forth. But part of the reason why alcohol and other drugs as well can lead to depression is one of the ways that your mind, like your brain, tries to like adjust to like drugs or substances in your mind. It either does one of the two things, which is one is it decreases the number of like receptors that drug can bind to, or like the receptors kind of become desensitized. And so what happens eventually is you don't have like you feel flat because you don't have a lot of receptors that the neurotransmitters can bind to, right? And so eventually it leads to depression because here's your brain trying to adjust, and so it decreases the number of receptors that, like for example, dopamine, which is like feelings of pleasure, can bind to. So it actually, you end up feeling so flat, and that's kind of how like why some of these drugs and stuff lead to depression, because your brain is simply trying to adjust, right? But yeah, and then of course, like with alcohol, if it's impacting your other relationships and your work and stuff, when all of that is happening, it becomes a cycle of like, okay, you're looking at your circumstance, and that also leads to depression as well, right? Like if you're not doing well at work, if your relationships are ending because of alcohol, that also leads to depression, right? And so it's kind of like the impact on your brain, but then also the impact on your relationships and your work and stuff. Sorry if I talked too much, but yeah.
No, that was good. It was really
No,
informative.
that was good.
That was informative.
So if you, let's say if you decide to drink less or stop drinking at all, are those effects reversible on your brain?
So with people that have been drinking alcohol for a long time, if they suddenly stop, they're going to experience withdrawal symptoms. And so withdrawal symptoms can be like anxiety, basically the opposite of the effect of the effect of the drug on your mind, right? So what instead of, so if you've been drinking for a long time, oftentimes what they say is instead of stopping abruptly, decreasing the doses of that you drink process, because your brain kind of associates places, people, with alcohol, and so you're not only fighting the chemical aspects, but you're also fighting these impulses, right? Like these cravings, which come. So if you, like for example, are used to drinking at your house, now when you come to your house, your brain's automatically thinking, I'm getting alcohol. So you're fighting a lot of different things. So it's a long process for sure, but there's hope, of course. Like um, with patience and with diligence, it can definitely be reversed.